Last night, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 opened in theaters. Did it improve upon the weaknesses of the last film, or is this another movie made just for the fans? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I started this channel because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. What did you think about Five Nights at Freddy's 2? And give me that really important context. Are you a Five Nights at Freddy's fan? Someone obsessed with the lore that's played all the video games and bringing that perspective into watching the movies? Or are you someone like me that has not played the video games at all? It is just a movie person watching a movie. With this, I went in watching it with my son, who is obsessed with the video games, is obsessed with the lore. This was like his most anticipated movie of the year. Well, behind Minecraft. And me, as I just mentioned, the only time I've ever played the video game is because my son was like, you gotta play this, you gotta play this, you gotta play this, and he just wanted to jump scare me. So I don't know the lore at all. I watched it with someone who knows all of the lore. I will share a little bit of my son's take on the movie at the end of this. He didn't have a lot to say, but as the fan, I will include his perspective at the end, and let's get started with the review. And when it comes to the first movie, I'm kind of in the same place as a lot of people where I just kind of thought, yeah, it was fine. It was good enough. It doesn't do anything particularly offensive or alienating. It's not super memorable, but it's also not super forgettable. It's just kind of right there in the middle. But as the father of an 11-year-old who I want to get into movies and enjoy a lot of the same things as me, I could observe it from his perspective as someone that loved the lore, that got really into it. So for him, it worked great as entry-level horror, something with a little bit of edge, but not so far gone that he shouldn't be watching it at his age. So I could see the purpose of the movie, and I understood who it was appealing to and why it was appealing to them. And thus, I was generally pretty favorable for it because of my son's experience with the film. I was hoping with the second movie that they could improve upon some of the mistakes of the first film, hear some of the feedback, improve upon it. And the trailers actually made me think that maybe they were doing that. It felt like a bigger film with a little bit more horror to it and potentially a little bit more urgency, stakes, everything like that that would elevate the first film and improve upon it with a bigger budget, everything like that. And unfortunately, I simply don't think that that's the movie that they delivered. It just kind of felt like an empty film. That there just wasn't much there at all on any level. We've got all of our returning characters. They're there again, and everyone kind of has their little mini arc of what they're trying to do. We have a new threat. We have a new villain. We expand upon the lore of the franchises versus the original one, and this other girl, and different mysteries kind of going on, and there's a festival in town. There's all these different plot lines. There's all of these different subplots, but there's no main plot that's super compelling and interesting. Like, there's something about the daughter being tricked into kind of freeing, or the sister being tricked into freeing the animatronics to have their revenge spree. Because it basically treats the main plot of the movie as a reveal for the third act, it just feels like we're wandering through subplots kind of aimlessly where so many things are happening, but also it feels like nothing is really happening because nothing is particularly meaningful. There's a ton of time spent on a middle school science fair in this horror movie about killer animatronics at a pizza place. So there's like so much time at this school, and you don't know what matters, what's important, and we're like incorporating in maybe ties back to the original family and developing animatronics. There's all this stuff about a fair, and some of it goes absolutely nowhere. Some of it is completely unimportant. There's no payoff to it. It's just like a detail in the background that's shown a little bit, but not in a meaningful way. Not that it, and that's kind of the whole movie just feels that way, of a bunch of ideas thrown together, none of them developed, none of them particularly compelling or interesting, just kind of things happening. That was really disappointing. And my understanding is that the whole movie's packed with little Easter eggs. And even kind of watching it, as I'm watching the movie, my son kept elbowing me and he'd whisper, "It's from game number 7. This is actually from game number 3. I'm like, you're not supposed to talk during movies, but also thank you because you're helping me understand what matters here in another sense. But the whole thing kind of had little things where, as the fan, he was picking up on all the little details and cared about this, that, and the other. But it was all just scattershot little references. The same way the plot was developed. It was just scattershot plot points, but not a through line pulling it together. That's kind of the way the whole thing felt. So if you're not someone that, so therefore is a fan of the video games, looking for Easter eggs, it just doesn't deliver any characters or plot lines or even enough thrills and scares to keep you hooked. It's just like, what's the point of the movie unless you want to go Easter egg hunting? Today's video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. So I just heard something pretty mind-blowing. Netflix has 18,000 titles available globally, but they only have about 7,000 titles available in the United States. You are missing out on thousands of titles unless you're using ExpressVPN. Netflix hides content from you based on your location, and ExpressVPN allows you to change your location so you can control where Netflix thinks that you are at. They have servers in 105 countries in all 50 United States, so you can gain access to thousands of new shows. Why should you go with ExpressVPN? First off, they have their lowest price ever. Plans start at just $3.49 for a month. That's just 12 cents per day. It's super easy to use. You literally just click one button to fire it up. One more click and you can change your location. Just to let you see what this looks like, if you go to Netflix in the United States, search for Batman, nothing comes up. You just fire up ExpressVPN. Let's move on over to Spain. Head on back over to Netflix, click for Batman again, and a ton of titles pop up. So be smart, stop paying full price for a streaming service only to get a limited fraction of the content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/Chandler. Don't forget to use my link at expressvpn.com/Chandler to get up to 4 extra months of ExpressVPN. I think this one kind of even highlighted the fact that the main guy, Mike, is a really boring character. He's not remotely interesting at all. And so he's just kind of there, like, trying to figure out what to do with his sister, his love life. And he always feels so low energy and boring. Nothing vibrant, exciting about him. The main female in this one, she's got a little bit more spunk to her, a little bit more of like a complicated backstory, a little bit more personality, but nothing that's actually compelling or interesting. The most interesting character in the movie is the sister, who this time has kind of like found her place in life and is, kind of broken out of it and is actually kind of excited. So just the simple fact that she has an energy to her and emotes and gets sad about things, has a clear like, I miss my friends, I want to find my friends, and acts in accordance with that, makes her more interesting simply because she feels like an actual person with a personality and desires and interests and pursues them, not like a low energy guy that just doubts everything. And that's kind of the problem with the movie. Even like the main plot has the animatronics ended up being freed, and there's kind of a mission that they're on. Like, what they set up is far more compelling than what the movie delivers. If you write on paper the setup that kind of takes place in the original sequence of the opening of the movie and kind of where it goes in the back half of the film, that sounds really interesting. And sounds like, oh, kind of cool. The way it's resolved, I don't want to get into spoilers, but the way that it ends up getting resolved in the end with kind of how it plays out with past lore and things like that is kind of the best idea in the movie. The execution, the way it is so unsatisfying, though. So underwhelming. And that's the whole movie. It's just a bunch of ideas thrown out there that none of them are delivered on. None of them feel like the satisfying version of a concept. It's just a bunch of first form of it. Rough draft ideas thrown together in what feels like a rough draft of the script, just enough to be able to go film it, and then just Easter eggs all thrown out throughout the entire thing. Like, there's one sequence in it that feels like it's pulled straight out of the games where there's a guy at a computer trying to do something and they keep walking towards him, and so he has to find a way to get them to back off. It's kind of a terrible sequence in a movie because it's just game mechanics in a movie. It plays really hollow, but at least it felt different. You haven't seen something in a movie and it felt like the games in my little experience with the game. So at least I got it. I was like, yeah, I don't know that this fully works, but at least I get why this is interesting and different. And the rest of the movie just lacked that energy entirely. It's just like a dull film that doesn't have enough kills, doesn't have any interesting characters. It's all subplots and very little main plot, very little story, just all subplots. And it takes too long to reveal what the actual story and plot of the movie is. And so you just kind of feel like you're drifting around with boring characters while not much interesting is happening. So just... when your starting point is, the first one was fine, and you come up with a big downgrade, what do you have left? Just a pretty bad movie, unfortunately. My son, who is the mega fan, was kinder, but even he mostly talked about things he was frustrated with.
I liked it. I did have a lot of problems with the movie. There's a lot of issues between the movie and the games with like certain characters and things that happen. But overall, it's pretty good, but I do prefer the original over the sequel.
When you put it all together, this movie is strictly for the fans, and I don't even think they're going to be that excited about this movie. If you're not someone that's deep into the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, this movie just doesn't have any value to offer you. It's not scary enough. It doesn't explain what's going on well enough. The characters aren't interesting enough, and it's just so scattershot. There's nothing to latch onto unless you're Easter egg hunting as a big mega fan of Five Nights at Freddy's and the lore. Overall, it's a C on the entertainment scale of 5 out of 10, and you can skip this one unless you're a mega fan, but even then, you don't need to rush out to go see this movie. So, like I said, my son enjoyed it more than I did, but even he was not buzzing about this movie coming out of the theater. He was mostly pretty negative about what they kind of did with the lore. So that's not a great sign. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.
Have you ever bought any DLC that felt totally empty and just drained 90 minutes out of your life? That's pretty much what Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was. What is up, guys, and welcome to my review of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. This is the second installment in the what's likely to be a wildly successful franchise for Blumhouse. We got the first one about 2 years ago, and that was a movie that, didn't necessarily do very well with critics, but it did very well with fans. It did very well at the box office, and I thought it was okay. I had a decent time with it. I thought that there was certainly some flaws with the storytelling. There was way too many dream sequences. There was quite a bit left to be desired with some of the human characters, but overall, I thought it was a solid enough little entry-level horror film that had plenty of potential to build off of to do some much better sequels. And when I walked into Five Nights at Freddy's 2, I would have bet money that this would have been at least as good as the first film, if not, at minimum, a little bit better, but had the hopes that this was going to be a much better sequel. And unfortunately for me, this is a film that was wildly inferior to that first film, is not a very good sign for the future of this franchise outside of Five Nights at Freddy's fans, and has really killed a lot of my interest and faith in whatever's going to come from this in the future. Starting off with the positives, I do like the designs for the different animatronics. Now, in this film, you're getting a couple different variations of your little crew here with Freddy and Chica and all that. You have ones that are like the more traditional older animatronics. You have ones that look like a little bit more of an upgraded version. You have an additional character in here of the marionette. And I think for characters that on its surface could be very cute and whimsical, they do achieve a lot of tension out of the looks of those, and you kind of get a little bit of a dual sense of that in this one, where there's some variations of these animatronics that are portrayed as more friendly characters, while there's others that are very much villainous and evil, and by using the exact same template of a character, they're able to achieve both. So I get it. I get why these characters in this video game series has become so iconic, because the character designs, which is the foundation all this is built off of, are really solid. I think especially with the addition of the marionette character, there are a few sequences that are genuinely creepy. There's a couple of solid scares. Now, they're very generic jump scares. It's all kind of relying on loud noises and quick flashes in front of your eyes. But as far as the scare department go, I would say this film has either an equal amount as the first film, if not maybe one or two more. Part of that is absolutely on the shoulders of the score, which I think is really solid here. For a movie that definitely achieves some creepy visuals, there's a lot of work being done by the sound design as well as the score behind it. So the music and the sounds that surround the visuals that you are seeing on screen is where you elicit a lot of those creepy and tense-filled emotions that they're trying to get you to have. The character of Vanessa gets much more of a promotion to be more the lead character in this one, and I think that Elizabeth Lale does a pretty good job. Now, she's not given a whole lot to work with, so some of the shortcomings I'm not going to put on her. I'll put that fully on the writing, but as somebody that has a character that in this one is meant to be a lot more of an emotional character and be going through much more of a journey of letting go of the past and dealing with her own trauma, I think she does a pretty solid job for a film that requires her to be in that headspace for basically the entire runtime. And while you really don't get very much of him at all, which was certainly a disappointment that I'll get into, I do think the little bit of Matthew Lillard that you get, I really enjoyed. I like seeing him play a character like this. Now, of course, he's famous for playing the villain in the first Scream, but you only get the last little chunk of the movie where he's in villain mode. Other than that, he's kind of just playing the typical 90s and 2000s Matthew Lillard character in Stu. And so whenever you get a character like this where he's able to be very vile and very evil and actually have some creepy elements to him, for an actor that's always so impossibly likable and just absolutely jovial with most things that he does, I think he does a really good job at portraying such an evil character. So if the biggest criticism I have for his performance is I wanted a hell of a lot more of it, that tells you everything you need to know. Moving on to the mixed aspects, and I have two pretty significant things that I want to talk about here. And the first one is the fact that this movie is more or less being given out as a entry level or a gateway horror film. You know, a movie that's less intense, that you can get people who are a little more skittish to try the horror genre, or more predominantly younger audiences, kids, teens, preteens, that haven't already been indoctrinated in, if you will, to give them an on-ramp to ease into the genre. And I think the concept of gateway horror films is incredibly important, that should be preserved and should be celebrated. If it's a film that is significantly less intense than what I would enjoy, to me that's not a bad thing if it's a great on-ramp. And that's where the difficulty comes in. Is this a movie that's geared more towards a younger audience, and so you kind of have to curb your understanding of it a little bit when you're somebody that has grown up watching horror films for 30 plus years? Yes. But I think way too often nowadays, most horror fans just dismiss poorly made films as gateway or entry-level horror films. Like Tarot from last year or the year before was a terrible movie. But the defense that I heard from everybody is, well, you're being too hard on it. It's a gateway horror film. It's not an excuse that the movie sucks. Where's the Poltergeists? Where's the Fright Nights? Where's the genuinely awesome classics of the genre that are meant to be more geared towards younger audiences or a little less intense for people to gateway into the genre? Where are those movies? Nowadays, it's just movies like Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which I don't think is very good, and people just excuse it away as, well, it's meant for kids, so it's okay that it sucks. I don't think it's okay. I don't want kids or my kids or anybody else's kids getting gatewayed into the horror genre with movies that suck, because then what the fuck is the reason to keep watching? And it frustrates me to think that there's a lot of people out there that won't have a friend or a parent or an aunt or an uncle who has like the horror knowledge that I have that can guide them through which classics to kind of watch and which ones to watch first, and they just start dipping their toe into the genre with movies like this. And then they just grow up possibly for the rest of forever thinking, well, yeah, horror, those movies kind of suck. So, I mean, it's a conflicting feeling. Like, is it a movie that's geared towards younger or less experienced horror fans? Yeah, it is. Is it good at doing that? I don't think so. And the other major thing that I want to talk about here is the notion that this is a movie for the fans, which was the same thing that I heard about the first film, which, as I said, I did like. Had major issues with it, but I did like that movie overall. But one of the things that I said about that first film, and when I watched it in a packed theater, was it was incredibly evident that some of the most exciting pieces of this movie I was completely out of the loop on. Because I have played 3 or 4 of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, not extensively, but I played quite a few of them before the first film came out just to kind of get an idea of what the experience was. But I am far from being a fan, and I know almost nothing about a lot of the lore and all the little, nooks and crannies and different characters and Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that is difficult is that I can respect and absolutely champion a video game adaptation that is putting a lot of effort into giving the fans these awesome moments, giving them these references or visuals or Easter eggs that true fans of the series are going to eat up and have a blast with. I think that that is important, and far too often video game adaptations don't bother with that. They just want to attract all of the people that don't know anything about the game and just borrow the name and the look for brand recognition, and they leave all the established core fan base out in the wind. Well, unfortunately, this is a movie that kind of does the opposite. It appeals mostly to the fans and then leaves all the rest of us completely out of the loop, to where all the best moments in this movie, all the moments that got the biggest crowd reactions, all the moments that I'm seeing being turned into TikToks where everybody's freaking out like Endgame, I have no idea what the fuck happened. And you can tell when these moments come, because there's a moment where a character walks out and they say a line, and it's like, that line is significant, but in the context of this film, it means absolutely nothing. What am I missing? And I just think that's a very frustrating approach to take. I think you should absolutely try to achieve some kind of a balance. Yes, there's going to be things that the fans are going to eat up more than us general audiences that are just watching the movie, but you can't market your film to the entire world, of which the overwhelming majority of the people that you're trying to attract to spend money on your film are not these highly educated fanboys of Five Nights at Freddy's, and then give them an experience that they don't understand any of what you're going for. It's like making a Resident Evil movie where you have characters that are just kind of standing around not really doing much, and then Jill Valentine takes a bite out of a spicy cheeseburger and she's like, oh man, this thing is hot, it's itchy tasty. Oh, she said the thing! And then everybody else, the majority of the theater that doesn't know what itchy tasty is in reference to, is sitting there going, that burger joke wasn't funny at all. What's tasty is in reference. Oh, she said the thing! And then and Jill Valentine takes a bite. Highly educated fanboys of Five Nights at Freddy's, and then give them an experience that they don't understand any of what you're going for. It's like making a Resident Evil movie where you have characters that are just kind of standing around not really doing much, and then Jill Valentine takes a bite out of a spicy cheeseburger and she's like, oh man, this thing is hot, it's itchy tasty. Oh, she said the thing! And then everybody else, the majority of the theater that doesn't know what itchy tasty is in reference to, is sitting there going, that burger joke wasn't funny at all. What's going on? And then the characters stand around for another 10 minutes and not really a whole lot happens. And then Chris Redfield walks up to a boulder and punches it, and everybody goes, oh, the thing! You can't just have a movie that is completely reliant on Easter eggs. You can't just have a movie that is completely reliant on references and characters showing up that are significant in games but have no significance to the actual plot and story that they're showing up in on screen. Because the vast majority of the people watching the movie have no idea what the fuck is happening. So I'm putting it in the mix so that I can slightly tip my hat to the fact that they care enough about their fans, and this is written by the creator of the game, so it stands to reason that he would throw things like that in there. That's all good and fine. But 2 movies in now, you've given us an experience, and even more so with this one, that the overwhelming majority of people that you are hoping to come and support your film are being completely forgotten about and completely left out of your experience. That's not going to work out. And if you are a fan that absolutely loved the first film and loved this film because of all those moments, that's awesome. I envy you. I think that's totally fair and valid, but you have to acknowledge the fact that if you don't know those little tiny moments, that the movie experience is going to be significantly worse for that person. And now moving on to the negatives. And the unfortunate reality with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is that aside from those Easter egg moments that are sprinkled and scattershot throughout this movie, they have absolutely nothing going on screen, in the story, with the characters, nothing. Now the first film didn't exactly have like...
Okay, let me get on here and correct this guy. Let me get on here and activate my camo. Alright. Now, I'm going to say he just gave me nothing but negatives in this prior segment. So, how is any of that positive? Now you're going into negatives?
This Oscar-winning plot by any stretch of the imagination, but at least there was a story. At least there was character arcs. At least you could invest yourself somewhat by the end of the first act in what direction we're heading, what is the main issue, what are we trying to solve, and what is the issues that are going to be brewing that will inevitably lead to some kind of a conflict in Five Nights at Freddy's. You don't get any of that shit in this second film. It's just people doing and saying random shit for the sake of getting these characters back together for another 90 minutes in the theater. There's an opening prologue that kind of adds in some of the tragedy and the horror of the Matthew Lillard character and his crimes in the 80s, while also setting up this new villain. And then you have a subplot involved with the little girl from the first film, kind of longing for her friends, wanting to see all the animatronics again. You've got like a are they, aren't they subplot going on with the romance between Josh Hutcherson and Elizabeth Lale. You've got McKenna Grace that shows up for literally 5 fucking minutes as like a YouTuber paranormal investigator. There's this subplot about the young girl Abby trying to enter the robotics fair at her school, and her teacher is so needlessly a complete asshole for reasons that are never explained. They get a hold of this little voice changer that is Freddy Fazbear themed that Abby's able to maybe communicate with the animatronics or the spirits that are inside of them. And what does that mean? Like,
well, first of all, Grace McKinnon is her name. Let me make sure that's her name. She's in there for more than 5 minutes. Much more than 5 minutes. She's in there for about total of maybe 25 minutes. And sorry, that's a different movie. But she's in there for a good bit. Now, I was looking at all these other things while I have those on there. But I've got these other ones to watch, so just let Cody finish.
It's all just like little subplots. And at no point does it ever feel like one of them is actually presented as or is promoted to being like the main plot and the main point of the movie. It's just characters doing shit. And the most significant and interesting thing, at least visually, that is going on is the introduction of this marionette character that's set up from the very first sequence that you...
Hold on, give me 1 second. I gotta change it over again. Output is going to be the headphones.
You see when the movie starts, and yet it treats this character as like some kind of a third act plot reveal or some kind of a twist of like, oh, this is actually what's going on. And it's like, no fucking shit, you said that in the goddamn beginning. And so unless you're a fanboy that's just sitting there watching the movie and just going on like an Easter egg hunt, trying to catch references in the background or visually or hear things said, like there's just nothing. You're sitting there waiting for something to hook you. Some scares, some tension, a character arc, some kind of a plot progression, and it just never fucking comes. You're just sitting there waiting and watching. And the thing that's really frustrating, it's so evident that they had no idea of a story for this second film that they just started introducing characters and actors that we know just so they can throw them in the trailer and make it look like there's something going on that can stretch to a 90-minute runtime. I mean, you had McKenna Grace that I've already said is completely wasted in this movie. Like, literally anybody off the street could have played her character. Her character plays absolutely zero.
Yeah, but they didn't want to hire just anybody off the street because obviously she's going to be in Scream 7 along with the new Hunger Games adaptation. Let me find her on IMDb real quick. Okay, so Freddy, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. For some reason, she's not on the first page, so you have to go to all cast and crew. Okay, all right. Right. Grace McKinnon. Okay, McKinnon Grace, not Grace McKenna. I had it wrong. My bad. Let's look at her IMDb page, her filmography. 26 years old. I think she's 19. She's 19 years old. 2006.
Peacock's a friend of the family and an IMDb guest editor, which sounds super fancy, and I'm here to answer some of your fan questions. Hi, I'm McKenna Grace, and I am in Peacock's a friend of the family and an IMDb guest editor, which sounds super fancy, and I'm here to answer some of your fan questions.
Are you a guest editor at 19?
It's scary playing a real person, but it was very scary playing Jan because I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything right and that I was telling it how she would have wanted. My first question to our producer and showrunner was like, how involved is Jan in this?
Yes. It's gonna make up on it. Yeah, the Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Weeping. She plays a character called Maisily Donald. Yeah, okay. They got Wild Finners and there's President... Really? President Snow? He's playing President Snow now? It must be before... It's gonna be before, what's her name? Katniss Everdeen. Damn. 24 years before Katniss' saga. We keep going back with the Hunger Games. We did that with the last Hunger Games movie. For the 50th Hunger Games, where young Haymitch participates. Why don't we just go back to the first Hunger Games, like the very first year? Who is Haymitch Ackerberry?
Zero significance to what is going on in this film. They just wanted to be able to throw McKenna Grace in the trailer for a couple of seconds. And the even more egregious one, which was absolutely marketed all to hell and very manipulative for core horror fans, was the whole thing about, hey, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you get the long-awaited reunion of Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard from the original Scream. Isn't that awesome?
Yep.
They're never on screen with each other, and the two collectively maybe have 4 minutes of screen time between the both of them. Specifically, Skeet Ulrich.
The idea with the Skeet Ulrich's character, along with what's his name character that plays Will. Yeah, I can't really do a review because I forget everybody's name. Oh, William Afon, played by Matthew Lillard. His character, along with Skeet Ulrich's character, they were partners at one point during the first opening of Five Nights at Freddy's because there's two separate locations. There was the whole one. There was the one location from the original first film, and in this one, there was that location along with this other location that had apparently this boat feature that was really crazy in the time that it was out. A lot of kids liked it. And then this is the location where the woman that becomes the girl that becomes the whatever it's called. This girl.
Ulrich's scene almost feels like a reshoot. It feels like somebody like Matthew Lillard reached out to him and they said, hey, we got Skeet for a couple of days. Can we throw him in this movie? And they just wrote a scene on the back of a fucking postage stamp.
So Skeet's character is the father of the girl that died. And at the beginning of this movie, too, he's the father of her. And that's mentioned in the movie. So in a way, he kind of connects her with William Afon's character, and so it's kind of like they get two of the you know because in the very first Scream movie, Skeet Ulrich's character along with Matthew Lillard's character, they were both the killer in Scream. They were both like because it was two killers, not just one. They were both working together, and they were kind of working together in the lore of this franchise because they were both involved in the creation of Five Nights at Freddy's. They both ran the locations. I think Skeet Ulrich's character was the manager, or at least he was the architect or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to. Let's look up. Let's Control F. Yeah, Henry. Okay. And then I gotta look up Matthew's character. God damn. Come on. Matthew Leonard as William Afon, the Yellow Rabbit. Afton, I'm sorry, not Afon, but Afton.
Stamp. And the thing that's frustrating is you watch the scene, and the whole premise of Josh Hutcherson going to talk to Skeet Ulrich is to discover something. What is exactly the mystery going on here? And everything that he learns, he already knows, and we already know as audience members. The scene is pointless. They also do absolutely zero work to get us as audience members to understand how any of the rules of this universe, specifically in the second film, work. Like, I don't understand how the paranormal ties to these animatronics and what the difference is between the different types of animatronics. Like, there's 2 or 3 different Freddys here. I don't get how the marionette works at all. And eventually there's things revealed about what the marionette can do that just logically doesn't make sense, and they don't bother. They just have it happen off screen, and you're just supposed to go along with it. And even just the basic plot progression of these characters discovering the issues and trying to battle the issues, it feels like they had no idea what the fuck to do with these characters. There's a Faz Fest thing, like a festival going on for reasons that make no sense. Like, the entire legacy of this restaurant is a fucking serial killer that was murdering children, and yet he's got like Ozfest going on. Like, there's a fucking a Dahmer and Ted Bundy festival down the street that everybody's dressed up as their favorite serial killer. It makes no sense. It's just there to have people walking around in costume in the third act. There's all this miscommunication between our lead 3 human characters that is just maddening, to where Vanessa knows good and well that there is an original Freddy Fazbear's location where most of the murders happened, and there might be something weird going on there. And it takes her like 2/3 of the fucking runtime in this movie to ever bring that up, even though some weird shit is happening. Oh yeah, by the way, there's another restaurant. Bitch, you couldn't have told me that in the last fucking film? And poor Josh Hutcherson, man, to be the star of the first film and to have him come back and have nothing to do the entire movie had to be frustrating as hell. And all it did is highlight how truly boring and dull his character is. Like, he accomplishes dick in this movie. Like, the most significant thing that happens with him is that there is a sequence in the third act that is meant to visually mimic the experience of playing the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 video game, which in and of itself is like a double-edged sword, because it's cool for the fan service side of it, but logically in the context of the film, the sequence doesn't work at all. It makes no fucking sense. The setup is that he finds out there's some kind of a device that is wirelessly controlling these other versions of the animatronics, and so he's got to go into this computer and turn off the Wi-Fi thing. And it literally takes him like a 15-minute sequence it's cut back and forth to for him to ever do it. And when he eventually gets to it, it's literally like menu, settings, turn off Wi-Fi.
So the whole thing is, what's his character's name? I'm sorry. Mike. Mike's not really good with computers, I don't think. So it's going to take him a while to figure it out. It's kind of like, a Chris Redfield in Resident Evil is not very techy, so he just fiddles with buttons. At least that's what Chloe did in Resident Evil Degeneration. What makes it so scary in a horror film is that the character doesn't know how to shut anything off. He's not an expert. If it had been the character, what's his love interest name? Vanessa. Vanessa would have been able to shut it down probably more easier than Mike. So Mike's having to fiddle with buttons and very hastily shut them down. And that makes for the whole horror suspense. So that's why they dragged it out, for like 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Took you 15 minutes to do that. Like I said in my out of theater reaction, like, this is the type of film that would be fun to do like a roast watch along, because these things that I'm ranting on now, like, the movie's riddled with them. Just moments that isolated you could sit there and just rip apart, because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None of the character decisions make sense. It's a movie that is just cobbled together to give reasons for these people to exist again on screen and make some money. And throw a bunch of Easter eggs out at the fanboys. So needless to say, the overwhelming majority of my issues with the film all comes down to the writing. Now, Scott Cawthon is the creator of the video game series, and he was one of the writers of the first film. He did get help from, I believe, 2 other writers. This film is exclusively written by him. It's his screenplay. And if you're a video game fan, that works out well for you because he knows all the Easter eggs to put in there. But clearly the guy does not really understand how to write a story for the film experience. So I think all of the flaws in this film, for the most part, are on his shoulders for this one, unfortunately. I hope that they get more help in the writing stage for the third film, or he just learns a lot from the criticisms of this film, which I had faith they would do from the last one, and that didn't happen, so who knows. But this is a film that ultimately just really frustrated me, completely underwhelmed me. It was rough to get through. It just moved along at a snail's pace. And unless you're going Easter egg hunting, there's just not really any exciting things to sit through this for. So big downgrade from the first film for me. So in conclusion, to repeat myself likely ad nauseum, if you are a fanboy of these video games, if you love the experience of the first film, there's a shot you might even like this movie more than the first film. So you've already got your ticket bought. Please go enjoy it. I hope you like it. But for everybody else, I can't recommend this one. I don't think there's anything in the view and experience of this movie that merits your time or your money. So at least wait until streaming if you really do have some curiosity with it. But for the most part, this one's just a big fat zilch for me. And it's depressing that this had the potential to be a nice little franchise, and so far, I just don't see that happening now. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, click over here for all of my 2025 new release reviews. I'm also going to put my review of the first film up here for you to catch up on my thoughts on that one. Please like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.
Am I the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's fan in the world? Nope. But, did I see the first film? Yes. Did I like it? No. But I could understand why others did. So I just saw the second film. Did I like it? Nope. But this time, I can't understand why others seem to like it. I know it's getting like absolutely spanked when it comes to like critic reviews and stuff, but most people, myself included, don't really give a fuck about critic reviews these days. But what I am seeing is a lot of glaze for the...
Let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says about it. That should have been way the fuck over here. Sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh the page. It doesn't seem to have a top critics section now. The audiences like it more than the critics though, so they're having fun. And the verified audiences, all audiences are equal, so we'll just keep it there.
Film from fans of the property, which I understand that there's a level of enthusiasm for an IP where you will swallow any shit that gets farted down your throat. I understand that. There is a level of fandom where it doesn't matter if it's objectively terrible. You are just happy it exists, and the fact that it is something that you can go put your peepers on for an hour and a half or whatever is good enough. Everything else doesn't matter. You can point at the screen going, I know that! And that's all you need. Oh, also, speaking on that, special shout out to my auditorium in particular. The entire row behind me was talking from start to finish about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. I felt like I was listening to the fucking Fazbear Fan Club podcast behind me. The entire goddamn movie. Every time someone's name was mentioned, I heard them talking about their significance to the plot in the games. Anytime they recognized something...
Oh, he said the thing.
On screen for all the fan service, they'd point it out. So even though I myself am kind of a fucking homunculus when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's lore, I promise you, every single Easter egg and fan service moment in here that was sprinkled in the film, I know about now. I know because they pointed it out loudly every single time. One of them even sang one of the songs that is apparently associated with the Easter egg that was presented here. So trust me, I got every single reference in this one. I got the big-time, full-blown Glup Shido experience here for sure. But even outside of that group, I am still seeing a lot of people saying, like, this is just for the fans, and the fans alone. And okay, fair enough, but I would say even if you're the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, this film is just still kind of weak. However, the cold hard truth of it is, it doesn't matter if the film is weak. The fact that it exists at all is satisfactory to tons of people already. Even if the film is mid or bad, this film does what I think most fans of the property want it to do. It shows them the things that they already loved from the IP, from the games, on the big screen. And they give you a lot to chew on that you'll recognize from the games. And that's enough for people to have a very positive experience with the film. And if you're in that camp, all power to you. I'm happy that you're happy with it.
Because, look, it's a scary movie. Every scary movie is going to have jump scares and cliches. Every single one of them. That's what makes scary movies nowadays, is how they're identified. So don't go into this film expecting Avatar-like. That's why people are going to get, when Avatar Fire and Ash comes out in the next week, they're going to get something different. So all you people ready to hate on Avatar, don't hate on Avatar, because James Cameron is literally giving you something different that you've been asking for. Y'all been asking for an escape from all these horror cliches and all these redundancies. And yes, Avatar itself has cliches. But what film does not have cliches? Name me one film that doesn't have cliches. Sinners, that has cliches. You know, and so we know that there's these cliches, but yet people like these movies anyway. Really, there's no bitching that justifies why they're bitching. You're like, people get into this, oh, this movie is not what... Of course it's not what you wanted. The movie is not meant for you. Avatar is not meant for you. Five Nights at Freddy's is not meant for you. I mean, admittedly, I did not like Five Nights at Freddy's as much as fans did or other people, but I don't hate the movie either. I wouldn't call it trash. The only movie I consider trash is like Megalopolis, which I got my hopes up, and that was a complete disappointment. Resident Evil, which Cody just referenced. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City 2021. Absolute trash. Woke trash at that. According to you, Chris Gore.
But as someone who is not the biggest fan of the games, I don't think this movie stands on its own two legs overly well. There are two things I think it does better than the first one, though. And it is something that they did highly talk up about, like, listening to feedback from the first one. I do think they did try to make it scarier. And I do think they made it feel much larger in scale because there's more animatronics and it feels like it spans more than just a location. Both of those things are good. Those are my main two positives I can give the film. I think the animatronics look great. I appreciate that there's more of a presence from them. I also think they did a great job with Marionette's design. That character is by far the eeriest part of the cast here in a film that's already devoid of scariness. Not that that's actually a negative I have for it. I don't go into Five Nights at Freddy's expecting to get fucking goosebumps, tingles, and covering my eyes in fear. This is Weenie Hut Jr. horror for toddlers. It is meant to be like a gateway horror franchise for kids, and in that aspect, it does excel. It is a juggernaut IP when it comes to kids' horror property. So it's not like I'm complaining that it didn't make me, a 31-year-old man, afraid. I just wanted to point out that as far as designs go, Marionette, I think, was the most successful, but also the biggest wasted potential, because most of the time you see Marionette, it's when she's possessing somebody else, and in that instance, they just give, like, wacky eyes to the person with, like, Slender Man, long arms and, like, little claws, fucking noodle hands, like salad fingers, and it's a much less cool and less original look. But anyway, like I said, another thing I liked is that it does feel much larger than the first one. I love the new Five Nights at Freddy's location. I think it's a very cool set. And I also think they knocked it out of the park when it came to William Afton's pieces. Even though there's only 2 sections, I'm pretty sure, with him in there, they are the highlights of the entire film. They are done really well. The opening sequence, the flashback to Marionette and Charlotte, we're going to be getting into spoilers, spoiler warning. That sequence where she's trying to save that child that William has kidnapped back there and then he is chasing her, I think they did an extremely good job with. The dream sequence with Vanessa confronting her father, William Afton, I also thought was extremely well done. I would have liked to see more of that, because those 2 scenes are the only scenes in the movie that bother with building tension or suspense. The rest of the film, even though, like I said, I understand this is meant as, like, horror for kids, the rest of the film is literally just jump scares with no attempt at building up to them. So it's just like random loud noise. Here's fucking Chica grabbing a guy through the glass door here. Big loud explosion noise. Breaking glass over here. And when you just have that as your main, like, scare moment, it just feels a little flat because there was no suspense building up to it at all. But like I said, I do think this one is scarier than the first one. It does seem like they tried to put more of an emphasis on this kind of thing happening, which I appreciate. Like, I do think it's going in a good direction there for the third one, I suppose. But now, like I said, one of the compliments I gave about, like, I love that it feels larger, love the new location. Well, I actually do have, like, a little hemorrhoid that I want to slap onto that butt there for a second, because I do like that, and they set up something that I thought was going to be very cool with, you know, Fazbear Fest, fucking Faz Fest, where, like, they're celebrating Freddy Fazbear and all this shit, and they talk about it a lot. There's flyers, there's hype around the town, and then the movie is gradually building to a big final showdown. You are led to believe it's going to be at this festival, and it's going to be a fucking bloodbath. But it's not. The final battle just happens in one room of a house. So, like, why even bother setting up the Fazbear Festival? It played absolutely no role in the plot at all, and from what I've read online, the third film, the conclusion here to this trilogy, also doesn't take place at the Faz Festival, so what the fuck was even the point in putting this here in the first place? It did nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it would have been a great final showdown space for this, too. It just feels like a real missed opportunity, and maybe it's what they wanted to do initially but couldn't because of budget or something, perhaps. I don't know. But it just felt really lackluster watching the final battle happen in a room, whereas it could have easily have happened at the festival. In fact, while they were talking right before that final battle, the festival was mentioned. I was like, okay, we're about to fucking take this shit outside, aren't we? We don't. Anyway, though, I want to get more into the meat and potatoes of things. When I mentioned that flashback, the intro, I think that was like probably the strongest part of the film, but it also sets up the main villain's motivation, Charlotte. She is at the OG Five Nights at Freddy's, the genesis of this evil, and she sees that kid get kidnapped, and she tries to tell some of the parents there about it, and they all brush her off. And it's really weird. So, like, she goes up to this guy, and she's like, help, this child just got kidnapped. And he's like, go tell your parents! Get the fuck away from me! What are you? A kid getting kidnapped? That's impossible! You're...
The dialogue is a little bit off, especially in the beginning.
Out of your goddamn... Where are your parents? Go talk to them, don't talk to me. So he, like, yells at her, and then she's like, oh, geez, okay. So she goes up to some other parents, some ladies are like, excuse me, grown-ups are talking. Scram, kidnapping? As if, kidnapping... Never even heard that. What does that even mean? You're making things up. You're crazy. Get out of here. Get out of here. Shoo. It's like, okay. Really weird. That's extremely weird. And I get that we needed this as motivation for this character, so when she does die because of William Afton stabbing her, it's fuel for her rage, where she hates parents because she believes they are responsible for her death. And she's right to assume that, because if these parents had just listened to her, warning them about the kidnapping she just witnessed taking place, she would probably still be alive, and William Afton may have been stopped in the very beginning. What I don't get, though, is in what universe would any parents react like that to hearing that a child just got kidnapped? That blew my mind. When that was happening in that scene, I was like, what the fuck? Why would they be looking at her like she just fell out of a spaceship or something for bringing up a very legitimate concern that she could have just witnessed? Why are we just ignoring that? And then she ends up getting murdered, which ends up getting covered up. Like, surely the parents would have connected dots like, oh, that girl that was telling us about the kidnapping, she's been murdered. Maybe something was fishy going on there. Nah. Surely it was her fault. Just no foul play. I don't know. I think the villain motivation here makes a lot of sense. You know, she died, and in her last moments, she only had one emotion left: rage at the parents that let this tragedy happen. But I feel like they knew what they wanted the motivation to be. It's a strong motivation, but they couldn't get, like, a real logical way of having that come across other than just having, like, these outrageously aggressive, combative parents that would somehow, ignore a kidnapping alarm. So that was just a little weird to me. Not the biggest complaint in the world, but just something I wanted to mention. But piggybacking off of this point, I have to make a mention of what actually is a big complaint of mine: how awful the script is. Holy cannoli.
Yeah, pretty typical.
Now, I know far be it from me to sin by criticizing Five Nights at Freddy's writing here, being someone that has only played a handful of the games. I haven't done the extensive homework and research required to comprehend the universe. But this film, it unapologetically makes the assumption that everyone seeing it knows every single tidbit of lore before watching this, which I actually don't fault it for at all. That's not a big negative to me. I would much rather a film cater to the built-in audience. It's the whole point in adapting something. I would much prefer if this was the standard than something like the Halo TV series where it abandons the fan base. I would much rather it appeal to the hardcore fans. So I appreciate that, even though I'm not in that target demographic. So there were things that I had questions about, like didn't fully understand because it seemingly comes out of nowhere. But I learned, thanks to the group chit-chatting behind me and basically just reciting Wikipedia pages anytime something happened. They were kind of filling in the blanks on things that were confusing to me. I believe that a lot of, like, the randomness that gets thrown into this film, all cattywampus, actually makes sense if you played the games. Like, it has lore significance to the games more so than it does for the movie. So even though it feels out of place and doesn't make sense in the context of the film, if you played the games, it helps you understand that. So I imagine people like me that haven't played a ton of the games and don't fully understand the world will be equally as confused by certain things that just happen to randomly spring up here. But that's not like the biggest deal in the world to me. I think that's okay, and you can excuse that because, again, it does seem like the main audience here is supposed to be Five Nights at Freddy's fans, laser focused on that. But outside of that, the dialogue between characters is trash. Like much worse than the first one. Like, I actually think they did a big step backwards when it comes to character writing in this film. Not only that, I also feel like they had no idea how to get from point A to point B in a way that makes sense. So, example, at the end of the movie, everything's going tits up. The animatronics have broken free. Charlotte's going out to try and kill the parents and stuff. They're trying to stop her. Well, at one point, Vanessa's car breaks down at the most important moment while they're trying to get to Mike's house. And it breaks down, seemingly like in the middle of nowhere. There's no other cars on the road or anything like that. And she's like, ah, damn! Throws the walkie-talkie. And then it just so happens Mike's friend drives by and he's like, hey, that doesn't look good. You need a ride? How incredibly convenient that he's just out and about at this time of night in the middle of nowhere to give her a ride to Mike's place without asking any questions about why or what's going on. Instead, all he says is, crazy eyes. And that kind of thing is present throughout the entire
crazy ass.
film with these crazy conveniences, and it feels like everyone in this world just has the ability to teleport. Like, they all have Goku's instant transmission. Every single one of them can go exactly where they need to be instantly. Like, there's no sense of, like...
It's like I said, you're not going to have a single scale movie that doesn't have its cliches.
Like, this scale where it takes a while to go from, like, Freddy Fazbear's place to Mike's house. It feels like they're neighbors, really. Like, Abby can ride her bike there in what feels like a matter of, like, minutes, even though I imagine it would be miles. But she can get there in minutes, build an entire robot with the help of Chica, and get back in time to sleep, and then go to school for the science fair all in one evening. And keep in mind, this new Freddy Fazbear's place is a place nobody even knew existed because it's been condemned and forsaken for decades. They drove that point home. But it just, I guess it's just like right next to all of them. It's like, it's literally just a couple steps away. It's just weird, is what I'm saying. Like, everything about the script just feels really fucking weird.
Does make it too
so yeah, Charlotte becomes the marionette, the puppet and she wants to kill all parents. Her best friend was Vanessa, so now Vanessa is connected to this original event, and Vanessa knew all about this, even used a music box to like pacify her, keep her asleep at bay. But then her brother gets some spectral scoopers in there who free Charlotte, so now she can go on her rampage killing parents. No parents get killed. In fact, I think there's only one death outside of that spectral scoopers crew, and that's the piece of shit teacher who just gets his head popped like a watermelon. That's something I also want to mention that I think is a positive. It seems like they really did want to push the PG-13 rating. They did try and give you like some gruesome deaths. I appreciated that they tried to go pretty hard there. I think that was a nice surprise. So anyway, back to the narrative. It is now up to Mike and Vanessa to team up to try and stop this from happening, because now Abby gets mixed up in it since Charlotte can control the other animatronics. She lures Abby into a trap, believing that it's her friends coming back, that kind of thing. It's clearly not, and thus they have to save Abby and stop Charlotte. I think the dynamic between Mike and Vanessa here is fucking terrible. Mike is basically just like, I hate you, Vanessa. You didn't tell me about this. I can never trust you again, and I won't even hear you out on anything ever again. I refuse to believe in you ever. I spit on you. Stay away from us. Like, I understand feeling like a bit betrayed and being like a little hesitant to trust her because she kept such a big thing from him. But I would also argue that she went above and beyond and did more than he did to protect his sister. Like,
true, very true.
Like, I feel like Mike had the least amount to do here. It was mainly Vanessa. Mike was basically just playing the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's game, which I actually thought was a series of decent scenes where he's like at the security booth and he's got to wear the mask. That was kind of cute. Like, I don't have any big complaints there, but it truly felt like it was Vanessa's story and Mike was taking a backseat in it now, and yet he still has the gall to be like, fuck you, Vanessa. And then the film ends on like a cliffhanger setting up for number 3. And I think that is why I'm so surprised so many people are like still really glazing this, because this film really feels like it is solely here to set up for the finale. So little actually gets solved or anything in that regard in this film. It is all just putting the pieces on the board for the finale. So it doesn't feel like it ever even reaches any kind of like third act or a climax or anything. It just goes until it abruptly stops, until it stops going, getting you ready for the third movie. And that's why I'm saying I just feel like it's kind of weak. Even if you're the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, you are basically just watching the setup for the third one. Now, if you watch all 3 of these when the third one eventually comes out, I'm sure this one won't feel as lackluster, since you immediately can flow right into the third one if you so choose. But now, having to wait till the next one, you're left with just an experience that is just setup without anything else. I could keep yapping about the movie, but I don't think there's any value in doing that. I think that's probably pretty worthless, because if you already liked the first film or you just like the property, I have no doubt you're going to like this one. I think it does exactly what fans of Five Nights at Freddy's want, which is just provide them with the things they know from the game on the big screen. So it boils down to, do you like Five Nights at Freddy's? If you check yes on that box, you'll probably like the movie, because it is just showing you all the things you already liked from the property in the games. And if you like the first movie, you'll probably like this one even more, because like I said, it does 2 things better than the first film, which is it does make it feel larger and does make it feel like it's trying harder to be scary or disturbing. So, yeah, if you're already a fan of the franchise, I have no doubt you're probably really happy with this film. As someone who does not really like Five Nights at Freddy's, I do not like green eggs and ham, didn't find a whole lot to love about this one, sorry to say. But maybe the third one. Maybe the third one's where they finally win me over. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and Five Nights at Freddy's 2 released Friday, and boy, have things gotten way worse. It's been a year since the events of the first movie, and while Mike, Abby, and Vanessa are all trying to move forward, none of them have escaped the trauma of the first movie. They're either repressing memories that refuse to stay buried, or searching for bonds in ways you weren't expecting. In this video, we're breaking down the movie scene by scene, pulling out every little hidden detail and Easter egg that I could find, or that you might have missed. But before we get into it, make sure to check out nerdriot.shop, where you can find the latest and greatest New Rockstars merch. But right now, we're having a big deal. What? We're having a sale. Buying a shirt from Nerd Riot is the best way to support the channel and look good while doing it. All right, let's get into this breakdown. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes launching your own website a breeze. We open the movie with a scene we got a bit of in the first trailer with the Showtime button. We heard this soundbite in the trailers as well.
Welcome back. Are you ready to start the show?
Then we hear the classic Freddy song from the first game. Toreador's March lightly plays in the background. There's gonna be some people humming it or whistling it. It comes up a lot throughout the movie. And then we're back in 1982 at the first original Freddy Fazbear location. Grace McKenna's character Lisa later explains how this is the original, not the franchise location. Inside, everything's so festive. It feels like the same level of fun you'd get at a major location like Pizzaplex and Security Breach. From behind the scenes footage, they actually showed a lot of what I love about the restaurant, the carousel with the characters, designs that feel very FNAF, and the party hats on the table and fake presents just everywhere. I like that you can see the pizzas on the wall like the ones you see at Kids Cove. And speaking of which, you can see Mangled's Pirate Cove, which is featured in the games. They also have a row of arcade games. These actually belong to the Fazbear Fanverse initiatives, which is what the FNAF creator Scott labeled them as, Candies and Pop Goes. They're basically fan games inspired by FNAF games. And this is when we meet Charlotte Emily, played by Audrey Lynn Marie. As we see in the movie, Charlotte is the daughter of Henry Emily, the co-founder and partner of William Afton, which aligns pretty much with the game storyline, just as her dying and becoming one with the marionette, which we'll get into shortly. I love the added little detail that Charlotte's sleeves are also like the marionette's black and white stripes because they're foreshadowing. Charlotte's best friend is young Vanessa, who reassures her that everything will be okay and warns her not to rely too much on the marionette. She kind of even criticizes it, how Charlotte treats it like a spirit parent, which I don't know what that really means, but could mean two things. A, Charlotte's father is clearly absent, and we'll see them allude to the fact throughout the movie, so she clings to the puppet as a sort of stand-in parental figure. Or B, it's foreshadowing again. Calling it a spirit parent kind of hints that her own spirit will eventually possess this puppet. In the distance, Charlotte notices the yellow rabbit, the Spring Bonnie suit that we saw in the first movie, which William Afton gets in. Charlotte runs to every parent begging for help, and no one helps her. They wave her off as a child. They're busy. They're having a conversation, and this forces Charlotte to go alone to save the child. In the kitchen, she sees the boy unconscious on the ground and William Afton at the sink. Charlotte goes to save the boy, and William Afton in the suit grabs a kitchen knife, which will go down as his weapon of choice, which is very slashery, you know, like it's Mike Myers, it's giving Ghostface, which is actually very funny because this is Matthew Lillard's second franchise where he's a masked man stabbing children. Is it a coincidence? Of course it's not. Skeet's in this movie too. They love Wes Craven. His eyes light up when he chases Charlotte through the darkened hallways with the boy, and these massive steps the characters make are so scary. I wasn't even in a Dolby theater, and the sound of their stomps shook my chair. You can tell by now this one doesn't look identical to the suit that we saw in the first movie. The teeth are different, but I also assume that's just the looks upgraded change from the first movie. Also, these puppet costumes are massive. They are giant, and the puppet makers, whoo, good work. Now, in front of everyone and still unnoticed, Charlotte screams and collapses over, luckily with the boy having been saved, but unfortunately with 3 stab wounds across her back, given to her from someone behind the curtain. William Afton. Who said that? And then the trapdoor opens underneath her, and it's revealed the marionette was what she was waiting for, what she wanted this entire time, and she's now in its arms being cradled. What I really like about this movie is that while the games have really good enticing lore, it's really tough to translate every plot point into a movie. In the games, the marionette was created by Henry Emily as a security measure, but I've always seen it as protecting Charlie, or Charlotte too. One night after some kids trapped the marionette in its box and Charlotte was locked outside the restaurant, William Afton appeared and killed her on a dark, stormy night. In her final moments, once the marionette was freed, it found Charlotte's body and her spirit bonded with it. The movie does a great In the games, the marionette was created by Henry Emily as a security measure, but I've always seen it as protecting Charlie, or Charlotte too. One night after some kids trapped the marionette in its box and Charlotte was locked outside the restaurant, William Afton appeared and killed her on a dark, stormy night. In her final moments, once the marionette was freed, it found Charlotte's body and her spirit bonded with it. The movie does a great job focusing on the heartfelt core of these major plot lines, and I love that even though we don't get the iconic moment of like a marionette holding Charlotte in the rain, the film still finds a beautiful way to find the marionette holding her here. It immediately shifts into this 8-bit art capturing the game's pixelated mini games, and we got a similar thing in the beginning of the first movie as well. And then we see an array of news articles about the closing of the location and how people kind of blame Charlotte for everything. We'll later learn from Henry Emily that everyone assumed Charlotte's death was an accident. However, he quickly then realized that William Afton was responsible, especially after the other children went missing a few years later. Side note, the soundtrack features original music composed by the Newton brothers, who did Daredevil Born Again, X-Men 97, and a lot of Mike Flanagan projects, and they previously scored the original 2023 movie as well. I really like it, it's amazing. It was one of the first things I noticed when I was watching the movie. Then we close the opening credits with a photo of Vanessa and her father, an image we first saw in the original movie. And she's holding the plane that belongs to Garrett, Mike's younger brother in the first movie, and this little plane will make another return cameo shortly. We jump 20 years later, but only 1 year after the events of the first movie. We're reintroduced to Jeremiah, played by Theodis Crane, who is in the first movie, he was friends with Mike and a fellow security guard at the mall. He calls Vanessa either crazy eyes or crazy ass. It was hard to tell in the theater which one he said, but honestly, either one ends up being perfect description for the impression she leaves on all of us in the final seconds of the movie.
It's clearly crazy ass.
Because she does become a crazy kind of thing, you know. They move into a new house, and since the events of the last movie, everyone is very into the lore of Freddy's, and a lot of it stems from their Aunt Jane telling everyone. If you remember the first movie, Aunt Jane was trying to gain custody of Abby. The last night we see her, Mike asks Aunt Jane to watch Abby, and Freddy then shows up. We don't see exactly what happens. We see Jane's unconscious body on the ground, and the child says that she fell asleep. We all kind of assumed, or at least I did, that she died, but the movie never confirmed it. And then we learn here, she told everyone what happened, no one believed her really, and then she was committed. So no more Aunt Jane. It's that time of the year where you start thinking back to what your New Year's resolutions for 2025 were and realizing that that clock is really ticking. It might be too late to plan that big trip or take up a new hobby, but if you're hoping to build a new website for yourself, Squarespace can help you make that happen today. Squarespace is an all-in-one tool that gives you everything you need to make a website that looks good and does whatever you need it to do. If you're selling goods or services, Squarespace can help you untangle digital payment platforms with just a few clicks, making it easy to start receiving payments right away using popular payment methods like Apple Pay, ACH, Direct Debit, Klarna, and more. Plus, Squarespace's design intelligence tool makes it easy to get your website looking just right. It combines 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology. Every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, so you show up more often to more people in global search engine results. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to go launch, go to squarespace.com/newrockstars to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All the lingering rumors about these animatronics being possessed and killing and eating people doesn't really help when it's revealed that Abby is also telling everyone at school what happened to her. She tells them about the yellow rabbit and how the spring suit killed William Afton from the inside, and not many kids believe her, but some do. This is another moment I really appreciate in the second movie. Something they could easily have done in the first movie is really just quickly and a little more cleanly explain things. The recap is delivered in this tight speech from Abby, and later when we're talking about the withered animatronics, Vanessa jumps in and explains the reasoning for them even being here. It's that quick, and then you just connect it to the video games. Easy. Abby attends Eastlake Middle School, home of the Otters, and she's taking a robotics class. What a coincidence. Her teacher is actually played by Wayne Knight. You know, from Jurassic Park, from Space Jam, from Seinfeld. For us old folks watching this movie, that's iconic, especially because he leans into 2 very fun Jurassic Park Easter eggs in this movie, and I'll point them out later when we see them. On the chalkboard in the class, I saw the design for the robot's motor, and I was like, that looks exactly like the diagram for the cams in game. But then I was like, oh, it also looks like the blueprints for the design we saw under Freddy and Vanessa and Jurassic Park Easter eggs in this movie, and I'll point them out later when we see them. On the chalkboard in the class, I saw the design for the robot's motor, and I was like, that looks exactly like the diagram for the cams in game. But then I was like, oh, it also looks like the blueprints for the design we saw under Freddy and Vanessa's dream. It could be both. Abby's creating a robot that will progressively, get better with time, but right now it has a bit of a duck bill and a little 3 little prongs on top of its head. It's supposed to be Chica, but it does look like an Endo 01 from the first game, which is the inside frame for the animatronics, just the endoskeleton. Later at home, Abby is watching a show, and this is where we first see McKenna Grace's character, Lisa. She runs a paranormal show called Spectral Scoopers. The trio acts as ghost hunters. It's revealed that Vanessa is having these reoccurring nightmares, much like Mike did after his brother's disappearance, and in those dreams, she's confronted by her father. Mike encourages her to face him in those dreams head on, and these are the scenes that we actually saw in the trailer. For Vanessa to fall asleep asleep, she turns on the TV static, which should always bring you back to the games, whether it's the camera feeds or the TVs or just whatever. She then places the mementos of the children killed by William Afton, a bag of marbles, a notebook, a mirror, and Garrett's plane. It's kind of disturbing her father would kill these kids and then keep their items like trophies and then give it to his daughter, but I guess it's not weird for a child serial killer to do anything weird, because they're already weird. In this dream sequence, young Vanessa runs away from her father. Along the wall, you can actually see a lot of family photos, and many creators have vlogged their experiences visiting the set already. And upon further examinations from those visits, we see in one, firstly, a de-aged Matthew Lillard straight out of Scream, but Vanessa and her brother Michael, who we'll meet again soon. We also see Afton working with Henry Emily, and the photo does resemble the art that's shared online a lot. There's also another photo that was so hard to make out because, remember, I'm in a theater watching this. I couldn't tell if it's Vanessa facing Charlotte, but it could have been William, Vanessa, and her mom. William Afton's wife did exist, but we never really explored that part, and this could be us exploring that part. Inside his little office or workshop, we have this Freddy Fazbear version 3.0 that we got in the trailer, but I don't care about that. What I care about is young Vanessa runs into Circus Baby. Circus Baby, if you know me, you know of course Circus Baby is going to be my favorite character. In the game, Circus Baby is haunted by the soul of the youngest Afton, Elizabeth. Circus Baby eventually becomes Scrap Baby, and I don't want to get too into her lore in case they do want to use it in the next movie, but she's great and kind of a monster. Back with Abby and Mike, we learn that Freddy's restaurant in the first movie has become Toe Up from the Flow Up, and the suits are no longer there, but this is where Abby finds the Faz Talker, and this is what we've seen in the trailers all over. One of the toys that Mike offers, when you squeeze it, it makes that stupid little meme voice. Now with the Spectral Scoopers, we're getting a bit of Scream here, a little bit of Scooby-Doo. They explain that a man named Mike gave them permission to search the premises for ghost activity, and we're led to believe this is the guard that we know as Mike. But little do we know, it's actually Michael Afton. As soon as that man was revealed, and he said, "My name is Michael," I said, oh, Michael Afton. For non-game players, right, watching the movie, Michael's true identity isn't revealed until like the very end, which feels very wild for a movie that, as far as I remember, barely incorporated him in the first film. But for fans of the games, it's very clear that Scott is trying to steer the cinematic franchise back on track with the story more closely aligned to the games. So we weren't surprised. As soon as we saw him 15 minutes in there, we said, oh, this is Michael Afton. Michael Afton is the oldest child of William Afton, and in the games works to undo what his father's really done. He's also the main character you play as in the sister location. And that's about as much as I can summarize for him without diving too deep into that lore, because it gets pretty insane and the movies might explore it, so I don't want to spoil it. Now, back inside the original location, Lisa first sets eyes on Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. These are the toy animatronics you see in FNAF 2, and toy Freddy is voiced by our friend Kellen Goff. Hi, Kellen. They're the improved versions of the original animatronics, which replaced the withered animatronics for the reopening of Freddy's in 1987. That's for the games. Lisa asks, where's Foxy? And they explain how Foxy was never put together right again, and we'll later see that this is Mangle. We also have photos around the restaurant depicting Mangle before being Mangle. Mangle appeared first in FNAF 2, and Mangle is the product of just like a poorly designed Foxy. Well, more the fact that they wanted to make a Foxy that was less scary, and we learned through Phone Guy's conversation that they tried to remake Foxy, but the kids just kept ripping him apart, and after a while the staff was like, we're not putting him back together, and then they just referred to him as Mangle. Lisa brings up what happened with Charlotte and the marionette, and we learned that the marionette actually commands the other animatronics through a signal, basically kind of like Bluetooth, which is how she's able to control them later. Honestly, I didn't even really need this level of an explanation in a movie where killer animatronics already exist. I could suspend my disbelief, but I'm not gonna punch a clarification in the mouth. Immediately she hears a music box, which plays from the game's mechanics. In FNAF 2, you have a music box that calms the animatronics, though it runs on a timer and doesn't last that long. Here we learn that young Vanessa had given one to the angry spirit of Charlotte to soothe her. I love this added detail, but it also feels like they included very subtle other details, like the lights flickering and the flashlights dimming whenever the animatronics get close. Overall, they play really well with the game's mechanics in the movie. They make their way to where the marionette lives, and they rest in a giant box, which calls back to their origin with Charlotte. It wasn't until here I noticed that Lisa has 3 giant buttons on her shirt, like the marionette. We are foreshadowing. The marionette then takes Lisa while we still see Mangle picking up this boy from the vents. Just like in the game, the animatronics emerge and move through the vents to kill you. Abby shows up at this location after being called to return by Chica and the Faz Talker, and this Chica is voiced by Megan Fox. How fun. When Abby returns to her science fair to show Mr. Berg her robot, he hates both her and the robot for kind of no reason. So he breaks it and says, whoops, Butterfingers, which has to be a direct callback to Jurassic Park. I refuse to believe otherwise.
Dennis, Our lives are in your hands and you have butterfingers?
When Vanessa returns to the location to confront Charlotte, it's revealed that the facility has a perimeter lock that prevents the animatronics from leaving, so they need someone to input the code to allow them to leave. When Abby shows up, she enters the exact room from FNAF 2 where you monitor the animatronics on the cameras. On the computer, she enters the code to free them, something like 4AE7XCD1. In the games, there's a similar shortcut in FNAF 1. If you hold down the C and D keys along with the plus, you can instantly finish a night, and using +2 skips directly to night 7, which are shown as the last keys in this code, but I don't know if that's what they're trying to do here. Abby then calls a cab to take Chica to the science fair as her new project, and lo and behold, it's our man returning again from the first movie, streamer Corey X Kenshin, my boy. I love him. When he showed up, I said, now get your ass back on that computer. When he looks in the mirror, he sees Chica with black eyes and no beak. This never appeared in the games. It's actually from the FNAF 2 game files. We're then finally introduced to Skeet Ulrich's character, Henry Emily. I've been talking about him this entire breakdown, and he has just now finally appeared. He keeps articles in Charlotte's baby book, snippets about William Afton, Charlotte's death, and the entertainment chain as a whole. Inside, there's also a note mentioning how sad Charlotte was that Henry couldn't make it to her birthday, but she loved her gift. And also notice in that photo the black and white stripes linking her to the marionette once again. This framing they've done with Henry feels similar to when we first met William Afton in the first movie. It's also interesting to see Henry depicted in dark tones and William in lighter ones. Henry's frames are black while William's are gold, and FNAF feels similar to when we first met William Afton in the first movie. It's also interesting to see Henry depicted in dark tones and William in lighter ones. Henry's frames are black while William's are gold. In FNAF lore, William occasionally wore the Bonnie suit and Henry wore the Freddy suit. While it's a bit of a stretch, you could say the color choices subtly mimic that. I also think the tones reflect their personalities, a sad father who lost his child versus a cheerful one who loves killing children. Sweetly and very quickly, Henry lets Mike take the music box he made for Charlotte as a child, a music box that lulled her to sleep. When Mike then gets to the location, he's surrounded by the withered Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, which roughly follows the same kind of layout in the games. The phone guy talks about it.
By now, I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous location, and we just use them for parts now. The idea at first was to repair them. They even started retrofitting them with some of the newer technology, but they were just so ugly, and the smell.
Back at the science fair now, Chica's about to kill Mr. Berg. His glasses fall onto the floor with a crack in the lens, along with his busted head, which feels like another callback to Jurassic Park. Most of his death sequence strongly is giving Jurassic Park to me. Back at the original location, Vanessa is freed by Mike. She quickly tells him about Charlotte, the music box, and how the rage Charlotte felt that night stayed with her spirit. Rather than blaming William for her death, she holds the adults responsible, all the parents. Which has been a reoccurring theme in FNAF since day one. The root of all this despair really stems from the brainchild of two very absentee fathers. Henry and William were bad dads. I mean, one was definitely worse, he was a serial killer, but the other one, I mean, at least the serial killer was around his kids. Do not quote that. Do not quote that. I don't want people thinking they can kill people if they have children. When Mike falls into the water, a small propeller-like fin approaches him, and I immediately thought, Balloon Boy! And this is Balloon Boy. He first appeared in FNAF 2. Once in the office, he just disables anything that keeps you alive and then laughs. His giggle is very haunting, and you can actually hear it in the movie. Mike makes a very funny joke at the fact that there's no door, and game fans know this comes from the security room. This one has to be mirrored after the FNAF 2 one, with the light button on both sides and the vents and the art hanging, even the stars hanging. And very funny little note here, the first tracker alerts Mike from 175 West Elm Street, a nod to Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. The filmmakers clearly love giving Wes Craven his shoutouts, first with Scream and now this. When the animatronics come to attack Mike, just like in the game, the Freddy mask prevents them from recognizing him, which is so funny how it's played in the movie. However, it doesn't work on Foxy, just like it does in the games. And I assume this is because of the facial recognition that the phone guy was talking about in the games.
I'm not sure if the Freddy head trick will work on Foxy. If for some reason he activates during the night and you see him standing at the far end of the hall, just flash your light at him from time to time. Those older models would always get disoriented with bright lights.
Bonnie's in the vent just like the games as well, and Chica and Freddy approach from the doorway. And then we're gonna jump all the way to where the animatronics are now just wreaking chaos on the city. After saving one family, Doug then makes a return, the lawyer from the first movie. He works for Aunt Jane. They realize there's still one animatronic still out there, and it's the marionette, and it's at Mike's house, and she possesses Abby, thus reactivating the other animatronics. When Mike arrives, he plays the music box for the marionette, and it retreats from Abby's body. In the music box, it's very, very small. It's a small ballerina, and it's really hard to see in a theater, but I'm fairly certain it's Ballora, the ballerina animatronic from FNAF's sister location. It's then revealed here that Michael Afton plans to continue his father's legacy. Why? Because they're family. I don't know. I guess that's just how they want to play it. But that's also not the point I want to get at. The point is, when you thought Vanessa had told the truth to everyone finally, she never actually revealed to Mike or anyone about her brother being alive and trying to kill everyone. Luckily, the ghost children show up in the old suits and kill all the bad Michael animatronics. And I like that on Toy Chica, since the marionette jumped out of her suit, you can see the spring locks. And then the blonde ghost child says his farewells. It's always this one. And he tells Mike that now they're going to heaven, but someone's gonna come back and he'll be stronger. It's William Afton. Who else would it be? Charlotte? She's already out. Mike can't trust Vanessa now, so they split up and he tells her to stay away from his family. Now alone and sad, Vanessa becomes possessed by the marionette, aka Charlotte's spirit. And the movie ends there. The end credits is the FNAF song, but there's a mid-credit scene where these three boys, before the demolition, start taking things for their haunted house. In the back, they find an animatronic, a very smelly, dirty animatronic, because there's definitely a dead body inside, and it's the yellow rabbit. And I presume the soul of William Afton is returning for the next movie. Yes, I'm wearing different clothes. And I'm back because I forgot. aka Charlotte's spirit. And the movie ends there. The end credits is the FNAF song, but there's a mid-credit scene where these three boys, before the demolition, start taking things for their haunted house. In the back, they find an animatronic, a very smelly, dirty animatronic, because there's definitely a dead body inside, and it's the yellow rabbit. And I presume the soul of William Afton is returning for the next movie. Yes, I'm wearing different clothes. And I'm back because I forgot to write in the post-credit scene. And I did see the post-credit scene. I actually got to watch this movie earlier than a lot of people, and I wrote it in my notebook. Stay there. I can't show you all my notes because I write really weird, but I literally wrote, Mike, the message. I wrote it in my notebook. I did it. I swear to God, I just forgot to add it because I have to write these scripts throughout the night, and then the next morning I clearly just forgot to add it in there. But our post-credit scene is Henry Emily warning Mike about the marionette, like FNAF's cassette man, which only reassures us there's absolutely going to be a third movie, and maybe a continuation of Henry Emily just trying to undo what William Afton has already done. So now we've got an evil ghost dad, and we got a now possessed ghost daughter body. The family's getting back together in the worst way possible. And that's where the movie ends. It's super quick, all over the place, but genuinely, it's very ridiculous fun. And I don't want y'all coming at me after seeing the first one and saying this one's not great, because the first one wasn't that great. This one's actually fun, and this one's definitely made for the fans. It's not made for critics, it's definitely made for the fans. So let me know down below your thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and a special thanks to our YouTube member, Jeremy Dunham, for supporting us at the executive producer level. Big thanks to my best friend in the universe, Brian Kim, who is behind this camera currently right now. And also to the New Rockstars editors, Joshua Stephen Hurd and Abby Friel, my girls. And thank you guys for watching the video. I love ya. Follow me at Lulu_Clemens. Subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Arf, 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 arf. Have fun.
There's so many people here, bro. I can't wait for this shit. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. She's got crazy eyes, right?
She's not crazy, okay?
F for Fast Best?
No!
I love you.
So this is what it's like?
My reach, madam? This is a date.
What?
No, I said this is a lovely day. A date. Today's been a great day.
Yeah. You guess how you tie that game?
It's Michael, actually. Call me Michael. Of course. That's why you're here. You did your homework. Yeah.
How kind of kid want to come here?
Lisa? What did you do? I'm trying to fix the situation I'm having. I'm trying to fix you. And I don't...
Wait. Is that what this has been about?
Who said that?
Oh my God, Corey. Yeah. The samurai.
I gotta get a new job.
What an asshole.
I just want to see what's going on inside of his head. Nothing in there at all.
Please. Hey, how do I close the door?
There isn't a door.
There isn't a door? What kind of idiot designed this place?
My name is Bonnie. Can we be friends, Debbie? Sure we can.
You know, it looks like we might be needing a good lawyer.
It's the lawyer from the first movie.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
But listen, what is going on? Crazy ass.
Hey, you okay? Hi, sis. live with the truth.
Michael Afton, oh shit.
Michael Afton. I am so pleased to finally meet, but I'm here to continue his legacy. Just in time for Fast Fest.
We think you're going, jackass.
You can't stay in those bodies anymore. I'll be stronger than before.
Who? Stay away from us. I can't trust you. Just stay away.
Oh shit, my brother had a brother. My brother's kind of cute. My brother.
Oh my god. Bro, what the fuck was that?
You got something? Yeah, I think I found one. I think I found a real one. How is this still here?
This message is intended as a warning. I was William Afton's business partner for many years, and although the equipment I have left over from that time is outdated, I can still track some of the animatronics. Mike, the marionette. Mike, get out as fast as you can. She's coming for you.
That shit was so fucking ass. Oh my, it was so good, bad, it was good. The acting was dog shit. Mike and the Vanessa, they were fine, the kid was fine. The puppet was actually genuinely scary, I'll say that. It's just the way it moved and shit, and the way it like took over the bodies of people, that was pretty cool. Honestly, like the first bit of the movie was okay, and the middle part was perfect. Honestly, the middle part was perfect. It recreated basically FNAF 2 and that experience. It was kind of funny the way he put on the mask, but like the whole Michael Afton shit was so bad. Like the actor loved it, but he over the fuck acted. He really, really fucking overacted. The ending. Oh my god, that ending ruins the entire movie, kinda comes back, and then ends it again, bro. Basically, like, they did like a superhero Avengers moment with the original animatronics beating the fuck out of the new animatronics. That shit was so fucking funny. They got fucking Freddy. A superhero moment. Why? It's just Freddy standing tall like this. Guys, I saved the... It kind of comes back with it saying that the kids did go to heaven, which was like, okay, cool within its own right? But just the way they did the ending, it was too fast-paced. It just happened. People were laughing more than they were scared. And honestly, this movie is like the original, but better. It is a good, bad movie. It is laughable how bad it is. And that's what I love about it. Seeing it with such that big of a crowd, and everybody was laughing, everybody was having such a good time, but how shit the ending is really makes this movie terrible. It is a solid 5 out of 10, maybe a 6 if you really enjoy it for the stupidity. You should see it now while crowds will be in the theaters, because if you see it alone, or like watch it high or watch it with a group of friends, otherwise it is just not worth it.
The ending of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is truly fascinating and deeply tragic, as it directly ties into the haunting legacy of Charlotte Emily in a way that no one saw coming. After enduring an unrelenting series of brutal challenges in which Mike and Vanessa fight desperately to deactivate the murderous animatronics, it finally seems as though they have managed to neutralize the threat. Only for everything to shatter when Charlotte Emily's vengeful spirit seizes control once again. Her ghostly presence manifests through the grotesque broken bodies of the withered animatronics, invading Vanessa's house at the exact moment she and Abby are trying to reach safety. The twisted metallic silhouettes lurch forward slowly, inexorably under Charlotte's command. Yet just when all hope appears lost, Mike bursts in clutching a secret gift that Henry Emily had quietly slipped him earlier. a small music box that once belonged to Charlotte when she was still alive. The moment he winds it up, the delicate melody floods the house, producing an immediate and profound effect on the enraged spirit. Charlotte's fury subsides. Her spectral form weakens and retreats. Thanks to that single relic from a happier past, Mike, Vanessa, and Abby survive a night that had felt utterly unsurvivable. But the nightmare is far from over. The film delivers one final gut-wrenching twist. The true mastermind was never Charlotte's ghost, nor the withered animatronics, but Michael Afton, William's eldest son and Vanessa's own brother, who had been lurking unseen in the shadows, pulling every string. Michael steps calmly into the light with a chilling composure and confesses that he too was forged in his father's cruelty and obsession. He declares his intention not merely to continue William's legacy, but to perfect it and take it even further than his father ever dared. Without a trace of remorse, Michael reactivates the animatronics, reprogramming them to hunt and destroy Mike, Vanessa, and Abby. Just when doom seems inevitable, something extraordinary happens. The original animatronics from the first movie, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, return in a shocking, heroic resurgence. They intervene to protect Abby, the little girl they still remember and cherish from the emotional bond they formed with her. The house transforms into a chaotic mechanical battlefield as the classic models clash ferociously against their modern counterparts, defending the child with an almost primal, instinctive fury. In a heart-pounding, emotionally charged sequence, the original animatronics systematically dismantle and destroy the newer ones, one by one. After the crushing defeat of the modern animatronics, the exhausted original models, now heavily damaged, broken, and drained from the fight, begin to power down forever. A heartbreaking truth is revealed. Their connection to Abby could only be sustained within the walls of the original pizzeria. Leaving that place had weakened them far more catastrophically than anyone realized. As their eyes dim and their movements finally cease, it becomes painfully clear that, after decades of torment and manipulation, they can at long last rest in peace. Michael Afton is finally defeated, bringing, at least temporarily, an end to the dark Afton legacy. Yet, victory comes at a devastating emotional cost. Mike, shattered by Vanessa's lies and the fact that she never told him the truth about her brother, makes a brutal, irreversible decision. He forbids her from ever coming near him or Abby again, severing every bond they had begun to build. Vanessa is left frozen in shock, unable to process the sudden total loss, drowning in guilt and grief. And just when the story seems poised to close on a bittersweet note of survival and possible healing, the darkest twist of all arrives. Charlotte's music box finally winds down to silence, and in that instant, the little girl's spirit surges back with terrifying power. Before Vanessa can even react, Charlotte fully possesses her. Mike and Abby remain completely unaware that the danger has now taken root even closer to home. The film ends on Vanessa's vacant, possessed stare, an utterly chilling image that promises a far more sinister future and perfectly sets the stage for an even darker third installment. The finale felt like it was directed by Michael Bay on steroids, explosive, overflowing with non-stop action, and drenched in relentless, escalating drama. Vanessa, who throughout the entire movie had finally found in Mike and Abby the first real sense of family she'd known in years, is left utterly destroyed when Mike forces her out of their lives forever. But the most unexpected and electrifying moment comes after the final shot. As the camera slowly pulls away from the haunting image of Vanessa fully overtaken by Charlotte, the screen fades to black. And then, "It's Been So Long" suddenly begins to play. The impact is instantaneous and overwhelming. The first post-credits scene is downright bone-chilling and serves as the ideal bridge to the next chapter. It opens on a stormy night outside the now dilapidated Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a building that looks less like a former children's restaurant and more like a cursed monument. A small crew of men breaks into the abandoned location. Not ordinary thieves, but scavengers hunting for old parts, signs, rusted fans, and animatronic remains to build a new horror attraction. An unmistakable crystal-clear reference to Fazbear's Fright from the third game. As they creep through mold-covered hallways and puddles of stagnant water, one of them calls the others over from the darkness, claiming he's found a secret room that never appeared on any original blueprints. The camera slowly pushes into the hidden chamber, a bricked-up, peeling-walled space where the air itself feels thick and unwilling to move. There, slumped motionless against the wall, is William Afton, still trapped inside the decayed yellow rabbit suit. He looks like a corpse forgotten by time, until the scavengers get too close. In a split second of pure terror, the left eye of the Springtrap suit snaps open, glowing with a vivid, unnatural purple light, while a guttural sound, half mechanical screech, half human growl, echoes through the room. Before we can see more, the screen cuts brutally to black, making it crystal clear that Springtrap has awakened and that the absolute worst is still yet to come. This post-credits scene officially confirms that Five Nights at Freddy's 3 will adapt the legendary Fazbear's Fright storyline, arguably the most iconic and eagerly anticipated arc in the entire game series. The second post-credits scene is even more momentous for those who follow the deeper lore, because it reveals that Henry Emily has been watching everything unfold and is now actively working from the shadows to intervene. Henry confirms that Charlotte Emily's spirit remains active and far more hostile than ever after possessing Vanessa and regaining a significant portion of her former power. The puppet is apparently hunting for Mike. Without question, this final scene makes it abundantly clear that whatever comes next will be darker, more emotionally devastating, and more merciless than anything the franchise has delivered so far.
I thought the first movie was fine. I'm not attached to the franchise. I've never played any of the games. I'm familiar with the people who have played the games and like the following that it has and the fan base it has, but I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was particularly scary. I don't think it's really meant to be, oh my gosh, the most scary thing you've ever seen. I think it's supposed to be a little creepy, a few jump scares here or there. But for the people that are fans of the franchise, look, this is exactly what people were saying about the first one when it came out.
Exactly.
It was getting shit on by the critics, and it did really well. You know what I mean? It did very well for what its budget was. I think they made a mistake in this second one, releasing it now, as opposed to maybe late October around Halloween. I think that would have worked out a lot better for them. But
I agree.
Yeah, man.
I agree. I think Halloween would have been perfect. People would have gone and rushed to see it, but I guess it just wasn't ready. I don't know. I don't know what the theory is behind release dates or whatever, but maybe they were like, maybe people don't want all the holly jolliness and they're just going to go see something different. So here we are. We're going to release it now. But yeah, look at this. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is overall terrible. I mean, it's just nonstop of like these critics saying this movie stinks. Like it is the worst thing. Why did I waste my time? It goes on and on. But you were correct. They said that about the first one. I like the first one. I'm looking forward to this one. I might go see it tonight. It could absolutely be horrific, but I mean, these are low budget movies that don't have to make a lot of money to succeed. So
I do think this one's a bigger budget than the first one, which you often see with these fucking things.
Like the first one did so well, they kind of gave him a little more money to spend.
Yeah. So the first
Not
one had a
surprising.
33% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, and obviously did very well at the box office for its budget. So it sounds like they're saying similar things about the second one. So who fucking knows, dude? I'll see it at some point.
Like this here, see, this is Jonathan Sim. Five Nights at Freddy 2 will make fans happy. Imagine though, if that's all you want to do is take an IP and make a movie that will make the fans of the franchise happy. You're not worried about the critics, you're not worried about whatever. And it just says, yeah, it's like loud, it's mind-numbing, whatever, this and that. But this is the statement that you want. If it makes the fans happy, you will have return viewership. People will be excited. They'll watch the next one. That's just how it is. Imagine making a movie that will make the fans of the IP happy. Perish the thought.
Well, and remember too, the first one, they released it on the same day on the streaming service on Peacock for NBC.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
like it was also very readily available for people to watch for relatively cheap at home, and it still did pretty well in the theaters.
Yes.
Boop. There we go. Perfect. I am layered up.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am.
Well, you're out longer than me. I literally just came out here to do a review.
I was a little toasty in the movie theater.
You can see that.
Yeah.
We're in The Exorcist, man. That's what we should be really... Look at that.
There will be another one of those coming out.
Well, of course there will. Because the last one did so great. The last, 5 did so great, right? They made so many sequels, and none of them have turned a profit.
Yeah. Well, it's all uphill from that last one. Kind of like, well, were we kind of on par with the first Freddy? I almost said Freddy got fingered.
I have been trying to stop myself from saying that every single time I say this movie. I always want to say Freddy got fingered.
Yeah, I don't even say Freddy's Fridays, the mockbuster.
I didn't like the first film, but I didn't hate it. I know some critics that really hated it. I almost liked it. All they really had to do was the bare minimum and just have some animatronics kill people, and it didn't do that. It just had for like maybe 5 minutes, which was awesome, and then they're building a fort and they're befriending the kid. I'm like, I don't give a shit about this. So I mean, I think I gave it like either 2.5, something like that.
I gave it like a C or C plus. I was like you, where it's like I didn't really recommend it necessarily, but. And a lot of the movie didn't make much sense, but it just didn't make me mad, really. Like
but the
a lot
kids
of
loved
other,
it.
Yeah, right.
Well, they loved it once, and then they didn't go back to see it again. That's what it got all these high ratings. Oh, the kids, all the audience loved it, and blah blah blah, but not enough to go back and see it
on
again.
The second weekend.
Yeah.
That's the Blumhouse method, man.
I guess so. Yeah.
$5 million budget. We're in and out. We're good. We'll see you on HBO Max next week.
I mean, it's gotta be better than the Disney budget of put half our everything into a movie, and even if it's a hit, it doesn't make its money back.
Oh yeah, it's a bomb at $20 million. Yeah, Blumhouse $20 million opening. Oh, you've made 4 times profit.
You made like 20 movies right after that.
We're good, man. So yeah, the first one was like I said, like C plus or something like that. I mean, this one, fuck this movie, man.
The screening I was at, nobody was reacting, screaming, laughing, anything until the end when the credits roll. Whoa! Huh? And here's the thing. I've had that happen before, but on this one, it was especially frustrating because I was laughing hard throughout a lot of this movie.
Were you?
I thought, for me, and I might be alone on this, I thought this was a so bad it was good movie. This really, really made me laugh a lot. I thought, and it's not intentional. That they are not trying, and I really was watching it for a while, like, is this trying to be bad? Is this trying to be campy and corny and hokey like Megan? And, but it really took me a while to put the pieces together and figure out it's not. Especially when I found out it was the same director, but I guess that doesn't
Is
matter.
it the same voice in the movie too? There was of Megan, because there was a couple where I was like, that sounds like Megan.
Well, trick question. It's Megan Fox.
Oh, I'm half right.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
No, this is one of those where just from the beginning, I was snickering and laughing. This kid's looking at this platform to come up, and this other kid at a birthday party just like, why don't you come have a slice of cake and everything? I'm just waiting for her to come up from the platform. It just gives me something to rely on. What kid talks like this? And then there's a kid taken in the bag by this costume, evil baddie, and she goes to all the parents, say, there's a little boy that's being, up there taking the bag and stuff like that. Grown-ups are talking, oh, can't wait till there, I'll go play with your friends. And I'm just like, okay, that's already hilarious, but then I'm like, okay, there's gotta be something like It, where all the grown-ups are under a spell or something where they don't care. No, that's just how people act in this universe. And then
in the era of stranger danger, adults are talking. It's not go ahead, sorry.
I get not too much into spoiler, but she gets stabbed 2 or 3 times. They declare it an accident, which I'd love to know how that happened. And she falls through the platform. That's already great. But then out of the platform comes the most terrifying thing that would never be in a Freddy's, Chuck E. Cheese, anything like that. This scary as hell marionette thing holding her in her arms and surrounded by all these Freddy got fingered characters that have evil eyebrows. They gave these things evil eyebrows. And I am just like, I'm gonna have fun with this. And I did. It's terrible. I had a blast.
Yeah, a whole episode could be done on how dumb that opening scene was.
I don't think there's any debate. I'm doing a nostalgia.
Yeah,
so
there
have to.
A lot of material in this. A ton. The first scene alone it already established how dumb the parents are in that he just kidnaps that kid right out in the open while there's a party going on.
Well, to be fair, it's supposed to be like Chuck E. Cheese. They were probably drunk.
This is true. Yeah, last time I was at Chuck E. Cheese, I did get a beer. I wasn't laughing a lot during this. I was rolling my eyes a lot in this, and I did this a lot in it. However, I know what you're saying. I think that maybe if you and I were at the same screening together, maybe I probably would have been.
I think we were both at the wrong screening because I went to an early screening filled with Freddy fans and stuff like that, and I don't know if they were like, this movie's awful, or they were engrossed by it. I don't know, but they were not laughing. They were not anything. And I am just trying to cover my mouth laughing. And I am just like, I so wish, because Malcolm was supposed to come with me.
Yeah.
I guess he had a dentist appointment or something. But he couldn't come with me. I'm just like, I so wish somebody was here. I need to bounce funny off someone.
I do know what you're saying. Like, my screening was kind of the opposite of yours, where mine was also packed. And they were laughing a lot in it. Not the same way that you were, but they were laughing a lot in it to where I was actually expecting applause at the end. And that didn't happen. There was some snickers when the
maybe they were laughing for the same reason I was laughing.
I don't think because they were laughing at the jokes that were supposed to be funny.
And there are a few jokes in this that are intentional, and I